Hello, fellow surfers. It is the 5th of March. Wind just howling outside. Recent little powder of snow came down overnight. This surf report is for the 6th through the 12th of March, 2025, and I'm calling it the Cosmic Spring Forward. And yeah, I know that it's technically not spring yet, but we are, during this surf week, going to be springing forward. If you're in the United States, you're going to lose an hour. Well, I'll talk a little bit about that. But our main concern here is to find the biggest influence, to know what it's going to feel like next week. And that way you can prepare. You can also prepare what other people are going to feel like. And then you can, now you got free will. All of us are going to react in a certain way. And then that's why we have our solution, so that you can know what it's going to feel like, but yet not like just react off of that feeling. You can react more consciously with more strategy in order to succeed based on the energy. That's the whole concept here. Not just react like we normally react because, you're feeling a certain way. All right, so here's our influence chart. There are big energies, of course, and especially this week with invigorating kind of energies, hope rising within, the cosmic spring forward. It's forward energy. It's yangy kind of energy. But there's not a lot of different alignments, as you can see in the tropical astrology. We have a first quarter moon. That's invigorating because the illumination is getting bigger. We have Mercury and Venus coming together because Venus is retrograde, Mercury is direct in Aries. So that's invigorating. It accentuates that Aries energy. And then you have Sun trine Mars, which is very energetic. So it's synchronizing together into an increasing rise of energy, right? If you want to call it cosmic spring forward or hope rising within. The I-Ching calls it deliverance. Well, that sort of clarifies it, like big things, but also like on the other side of tragedy. It's like there's hope, there's light at the end of the tunnel kind of a feeling. There's a ability to breathe again in deliverance. And then the DreamBot says active words, lots of cognitions, really speaks to Mercury. Active words, though, is the same thing we just talked about. The invigorating energies of the first quarter moon, the Mercury, Venus in Aries, and the Sun trine Mars. So let's talk all about it. And a big shout out to Mem Jax. Congratulations. You won the big Best Comment Award this week. And thank you. That was a compliment to our energy report, but it's more of the technology that's been developed rather than me personally giving you the information. That's the way I see it. But well done, Mem Jax. Oh, I have the wrong slide because I wanted to go into the DreamBot first. Number one word in the DreamBot is March. Well, that makes sense. Brand new into March 2025. Obviously, March has more than just one connotation. It can be more of a military thing. I didn't put that into a meme, but I probably could have if you include like flying and plane. That could imply, if you match that with March, could imply some sort of like war, but it's not super strong. So I just left it as is. The red arrows are insane, lucidity, bright, decided. It's the mental state, cognitions, right? There's not a lot of them. The big meme is the green arrows. And these are just really active. And it's more active than last week. Some of these words are the same, but they're pretty much different. And they're very active, more active than last week. So the collective is matched with the rising kind of yang energy. I have a couple of linguistics to read out. March, cool, insane, lucidity. And I thought that was interesting. Sort of has that great awakening kind of a flavor to it. But in a world, think about this, like in a world where such that we have, insane is lucidity, or insanity is like seeing things clearly. Crazy. Linguistics number 2, game called run, escapism, and I have all sorts of ideas what that might imply to, but game called run, that is the energy is accentuated in the deliverance that we talked about with the I-Ching, but also the illumination, the rise of the illumination, that kind of thing. Okay, astrology, big picture. This is it, folks. This is the last CIRF week before we start in on our eclipse. We're going to start with a full moon lunar eclipse in Virgo. This is next report, not this report. We're in this little gray band here. And then a couple CIRF reports away from the big solar eclipse in Aries. That's after our sun goes into Aries, spring equinox. And we'll cover all those. So this week we are just before that lunar eclipse, as we talked about before, and there's not a whole lot of different alignments. Doesn't change a whole lot. And here's your energy chart. If you're thinking about, it's just more of like a motivating, deliverance sort of a thing. Hope is in there, strong amounts of motivation. So that's very high, but it starts to wane off towards the end of our CIRF week. All right, and here we are. Two things to talk about here is the tail end of last week. We had Venus station and retrograde. And so she is full up retrograde in Aries right now and signifies a period of reevaluating your approach to love, personal desires, maybe assertiveness in relationships. It's an opportunity during this retrograde period, at least while she's in Aries, to confront your own self-worth, your values, what you value in relationships, the way you express your love and affection. This might be the fiery romance renegade or the courageous love explorer. But we also have the first quarter moon, and the first quarter moon is right over Jupiter in Gemini. The first quarter moon is defined by 90 degrees, or called a square energy to the sun. It's the first square. So when the moon gets to a 90 degrees on the front side of this roughly 30-day cycle, that's the first quarter moon. And so this is go time. This is where you press on the accelerator and start in on the goals that you set at the new moon, when the moon was over the sun. But when the first quarter moon is in Gemini, it represents a time of mental stimulation. When the first quarter moon is in Gemini next to Jupiter, it brings a very expansive feel to it, a very deliverance sort of feel to it. And it also inspires curiosity, the natural ability to adapt. This alignment encourages individuals to embrace your curiosity, seek out new information, like a thirst for information. That's why we have this picture here. For gathering facts, exploring different perspectives, making mental connections. This is something normally relegated to the subconscious when you're daydreaming, but this could be done with the conscious mind now, especially with the Jupiter in Gemini there. So, right out the get-go, we have motivating energy and very mental, so cognitions, that was appropriate in the DreamBot. And then on Friday, not that this is the first of it, I mean, this was also on Thursday as well, because well within the orb, but this goes exact. Sun trine Mars goes exact at 11:12, 11:13 p.m. Central Standard Time. It's a harmonious period of heightened intuition because it's water signs. We also have a lot of emotional courage, the ability to pursue goals, and to pursue goals with sensitivity, empathy, and the influence of others, telepathy, mysticism, all that's kind of good stuff with the water signs. This is a very easy energy between Sun in Pisces and Mars in Cancer. With the Sun in Pisces, we might feel a lot more led by spiritual and creative side, while Mars in Cancer adds a layer of desire to nurture, protect, maybe defend, especially for loved ones. You can only imagine here tomorrow on Saturday when Moon flies over Mars. This is going to be even a more emotional and enhancing, like very motivational energy from the emotional side, the connected side. The benefits of this energy: increased ability to pursue goals with sensitivity and empathy, heightened capacity for nurturing and protecting others. It's a goal-oriented energy easily, but it's doesn't have to be self-sacrificing, but there might be some of that. The desire to self-sacrifice for the betterment of others or to defend others. Saturday, not really much different other than we just talked about Moon over Mars makes it even more emotional, probably in a very motivating way. Some of the biggest motivational energy is from emotions, and because of this massive trine. Now, Saturn is included in here, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But think about it's basically Pisces trine Cancer on Saturday the 8th. This is the last day of this just massive, watery, motivational, emotional energy that is just, it seems like it's rising. Hope rising, deliverance, that flair to it. Now on Saturday night after midnight, this is where you change your clocks if you want to be a conformer. I wish I had other recommendations, but I don't. I typically just refuse to change my clock in the Hyundai, and it'll be the right time next cycle. I don't know any other nonconformist way to deal with that. Maybe they can change it. They promised. Are they going to come true on that to get rid of this time change thing? Don't know. But you can see in the software that it's added an hour. Basically, we lose an hour. When we spring forward, it's called spring forward. That's why I have it named the way I do in the CIRF report. And you lose an hour. That's not everywhere. I grew up in Indiana where we didn't have to change our clocks. I guess that's why I'm so anti-change the clock thing. But anyway, on Monday the 10th, this is where, we're getting a really big orb, a strong energetic conjunction between the Sun and Saturn. They're within a degree and a half, so very tight. Plus, we have a pretty tight trine over here. So putting all this together, with all the players together, Sun, Saturn, and Mars, both in water signs, produces a powerful blend of invigorating emotional depth, intuitive understanding, and the ability to take structured, disciplined action towards achieving one's goals. The Sun conjunct Saturn in Pisces indicates a strong sense of emotional maturity and a capacity to channel one's sensitivity and intuition into practical, tangible outcomes. This alignment supports the ability to build solid foundations in one's personal life and relationships. and also maintaining a connection to the spiritual and imaginative realms. But the Saturn is it's like a wake up call, and a wake up is another metaphor for the rising kind of yang motivational energy. So even though it's Saturn, some people think of it as hard and gonna suck and all that. Just it just seems like cold. It's a cold improvement or a cold discipline, but it produces sort of a deliverance on the other side of it. So I'm thinking the essence of the I-Ching, which said hexagram 40 deliverance, is all about this alignment right here, Sun and Saturn conjunction, because it can be hard, but the hardest things are the ones that give you the most satisfaction, the most deliverance once it's done. Tuesday, the 11th, this is where Mercury direct meets Venus retrograde. And it blends the assertive, direct communication style of Mercury and Aries with the reevaluation of life's most intense relational experiences by Venus retrograde. We'll have strong mental urges to express boldly and take decisive action, while Venus retrograde encourages a more inward focus on reassessing romantic connections, more careful on issues of self-worth, and ardent seeking of aesthetic preferences. This is the representation of Mercury meeting Venus. This challenges us to find a balance between asserting your own needs and desires while also considering the feelings and values of others, considering the insights found in the reassessments. Great time for negotiating, for resolving problems and disputes. Also, possible archetypes are audacious truth seeker, the valiant self-worth champion, dauntless emotional alchemist. That's more incorporating our trine from the water signs. And here it is, folks, on Wednesday the 12th, Sun conjunct Saturn. This is the deep introspection time when Sun meets Saturn. It's a kind of a Pisces anyway, is sort of a dreamy place for ego, for Sun, identity. Identity is kind of lost in the daydream or the fantasy. And Saturn just kind of hits you in the face and goes, no, you need to do this stuff. Stop dreaming. Get up and do stuff. The qualities of discipline, structure, and responsibility is from Saturn. And the blend is with the Sun, which represents ego and vitality and self-identity. And it's in the imaginative, emotional, and spiritual sign of Pisces. So might feel called to confront your fears, limitations, the harsh realities of life, while also seeking a higher purpose or spiritual understanding. It's a time when boundless imaginative nature of Pisces is tempered by the practicality and discipline of Saturn. It's kind of a balancing out of dreams and responsibilities. Be a great continuum to look at for Wednesday the 12th. Increased sense of purpose and spiritual growth, opportunity to confront your fears and limitations with compassion and wisdom, but also potential for feeling burdened or restricted by life's challenges. But always remember, on the other side, deliverance. Speaking of deliverance, here's the I-Ching 40, and it's called deliverance. So this is a feeling of clarity and fresh opportunity, follows a thunderstorm or any type of extreme tension or obstacles. The storm has had the effect of clearing the air and suddenly reducing atmospheric tension. It symbolizes that some kind of deliverance is at hand. Don't you see how that resembles the Sun-Saturn conjunction? So generally what you'll feel with the change lines 5 and 6, a profound sense of relief after a period of tension or restriction. Cautious optimism as they emerge from difficulties. It's that kind of a light at the end of the tunnel, but not quite there yet. It's not like you've achieved it yet, but there's hope in the air. Hope rising, anxiety about handling newfound freedom responsibly, uncertainty about navigating independence without guidance, like doing it alone, like a late teen learning how to be an adult. A mixture of excitement and apprehension about what comes next. Yeah, who's not seeing that or feeling that? All right, ready? Let's summarize the influence so we can get to the solution. So the collective springs forward, metaphorically. It's not springtime, but we lose an hour on the time change if you're in the U.S. From the first quarter moon on the first day of our CIRF week. It's a Kung Pao energetic expansion. The waxing gibbous moon gains illumination daily, and the expansive influence is felt. Urges to move and get busy are present, but they're not outright. Emotional instructions tend to slow us down. Maybe an inner conflict here and there, maybe kind of a dreamy should, or a assuming how someone else is feeling, like an empathy influence, making assumptions about how this thing is going to affect others. Not necessarily a bad thing, but it can slow you down. Are extremely wise, prudent, and helpful, the emotional instructions, that is. Mercury and Venus collide to create an audaciously harmonious vibe that mediates and resolves discord. The Saturn Cazimi unlocks pragmatic wisdom transformed from past emotional chaos. All right, let's hit our solution. And we put our change lines in and we get hexagram 6, conflict. So now we're looking for solution-based behaviors from this I-Ching. So seeking mediation, listening actively, avoiding escalation, maintaining a calm and composed demeanor, even in the face of provocation or disagreement, being willing to compromise. Do you see that it's accentuating, the behavior is accentuated the Mercury-Venus conjunction? But I am considering the influence, the main influence, to be the Saturn Sun conjunction, or Saturn Cazimi. And that is at, in tropical terms, 22 degrees 6 minutes of Pisces, which puts us into hexagram 22 of the Rave and Pisces. So, wonder why that got moved. So here we go. We're going to do a deep dive on the Rave mandala, and it's going to be a good one this week. It's the alignment. Okay, so hexagram 22 of the Rave mandala, line 6, maturity. So this alignment with experience of form with substance, natural and evident leadership and authority. The possibility that experience in social interaction will result in leadership capacity. But on the downside, the possibility that experience in social interaction will result in a nonconformist expression of openness. What does all this mean? So basically, if we had to put a name to this, an alternative name that would make a lot more sense than what they have here, it would be the nonconformist leader. Because what we're trying to do is mesh the ruling planets with the increment decrement is Sun and Mars respectively. So we're trying to mesh both of those together in a leadership type format. And I want you to pay attention here, because what we're seeing out in the grand scope of things, particularly the political realm or the government realm, is this actual line. So what are the ends of the continuum? And the increment side is the sun. So you have strong natural authority that is derived from emotional experience. Okay. We're not just taking, like, could use another example, but it's like not just like a bloodline is, oh, they come from a powerful family, so he has or she has power. It's not that. This is pure experience that is being exuded into later leadership. So leadership that is being derived from emotional experience. Then Mars is the decrement, and it's the tendency to buck the system. It's just a nonconformity. And when you mesh these things together, you have a balancing authority and openness. You have a wise, flexible leadership style. But it's like a true leader. It's the not necessarily the leader that is put into the position of power, but the leader that people follow, even if they're not the leader or the manager. So, how do you balance these things out? The essence of line 6 is about integrating leadership and openness or nonconformity. The emotional maturity to lead with experiential wisdom. This is the sun being the authority. But the other side yearns for newness and nonconformity. This is the innovative rebel leader due to Mars. So let's look at what happens if you get too far to one side or the other. The one extreme, the sun, the increment extreme, is the authority. The two extremes are authority and nonconformity. So the balanced expression is socially authoritative wisdom, but also exudes adaptability, openness, and innovation. Not just dictating for the sake of wielding power, and not just rebelling for the sake of bucking the system. So balance would be the wise, influential, but non-conforming leader, willing to do things a little different, but based on the emotional experiences of the past. So let me give you an example. I think Musk and the Doge, no matter if you like him or not, doesn't really matter. I think this is a great example of testing this line at this time. So Doge, Musk apparently had experience overhauling Twitter, massive reduction of fraud, waste, and abuse, apparently like monetarily. So taking that experience and applying it to government fraud and waste. And then on the increment side, so that's the leadership stuff. So the extreme maturity leadership part is taking the experience from the past and applying it to the government drawdown and reducing fraud. But also there's an element of just not keeping with the status quo, and I don't really care what people think of me. That's not necessarily part of this line, but you can see it in Musk. I don't really care that you don't like what I'm doing. That's kind of a sign of the nonconformist. And now let's go. If Musk goes too far, one or the other, then if he gets too sun, then it becomes too rigid, too detached in his approach, and he risks alienating the stockholders. Like nobody wants to follow if it gets too rigid and not open. So the nonconformity is also the openness of the Mars. But if you get to Mars too open, then you're just like reckless and impulsive and just like crazy. Like I don't even want to follow you. You're going to lose your followers, right? So this would reflect the Mars immaturity extreme of line 6, where openness becomes non-constructive, detached from reality, and or loses perceived authority, right? So it's a meshing of both. It's a sign. If you had influence, especially from past emotional experience, and now you don't, it could be, if you're on this line, it could be because you're getting to nonconformity. You're just wanting to buck the system is all, and now people don't really want to follow you anymore. All right, so there's a lot of words to say that it's the nonconformist leader. All right, ready to go to the solution? Triangulation. Remember, that was what we just did was just this part right here. This was the number 2 source for our solution. Number 1 was conflict, and it was basically become the referee here. The referee is breaking things up, is creating mediation, is creating harmony, stopping the fight. We have the waxing gibbous moon, and we have sidereal Pisces, idealistic, does things emotionally, spiritually, intuitively, compassionately, mystically. Whatever it is we do, we want to make sure we do it harmoniously, empathically, tenderly. All right, so here is our overlaps between our 4 sources. Draw upon emotional experiences of the past to help you instruct you now. Use experiential wisdom from past lessons to help you guide yourself and others. Number 2, watch out for urges to control others, because remember, sort of like that caring, like the referee cares about his job, cares about safety, and so could over control, right? And start controlling the fight. So we don't want to control. If the need or want arises to control, then you need more openness and more adaptability. Maintain influence, but don't outright control. And then mediate, negotiate, forgive, connect, do healthy social things. And then number 4, start the yang engines and get to work on your lunar goals if you haven't already. Number 5, serve others through compassionate leadership derived from experiential wisdom and learning. I have a couple of these. It was very highly back to the Rave mandala. It's a big one. And we all have this capacity, by the way. Not that you have a Rave gate in line. If you do, then your whole life is spent on this continuum. But for all of us, we do have some of this line in us. And it would be a good week to refine that and to look at where your experiences are, which you can apply your experiential learning and leadership. As far as social, this week is highly social. Now, none of this means you have to do this. It's just, this would be a good week to plan in some social events, just to be around people. It doesn't mean you have to be around healthy people, although who wouldn't want to be around healthy people? This is the week, if you've had problems with folks, that might be the good week to just ask them out for a drink and resolve it. If that's been going on, this would be the great week for that. But it is high. It's a high social. And remember, you don't have to be social, but it might be in your best interest on how to handle that yang, that increasingly motivational energy throughout the week too. It's a great way to channel that social energy. All right, that's all I have, everyone. Who's got questions? How do we do this week? Remember, we're getting into eclipse season, so pay attention to the next couple of CIRF reports. See, more and more important as we go. Things are about to change. We have those other big, deep, subconscious aspects, such as Uranus and Pluto and those kinds of things, to look at, as well as getting into this eclipse season. So big change, big transformations coming in our world today. Bless you all. Namaste.